Good evening, visitors, and welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Gerard Pratt, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Flight Sergeant Russ Saint. We're honoured to acknowledge Major General Nicholas Welsh, Assistant Chief of General Staff, British Army, and Deputy Chief of the Australian Defence Force, Major General Rick Burr, and the accompanying delegation. Welcome. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony from across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors and students on behalf of the following schools. From Queensland, St Mary's School, Goondiwindi; St Ambrose Primary School, Newmarket; Holy Cross Primary School, Wooloowin; Concordia Primary School, Toowoomba; and from New South Wales, Caves Beach Public School. I'd invite you all now to please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Children, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through until the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and in operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private George Humbert. George Humbert was born in Sandhurst, Bendigo on the 9th of May 1885. He was the eldest of George and Margaret Humbert's 6 children. His father, George, and uncle, Frank, were pioneering settlers in the Prairie District of Victoria and both held extensive tracts of land in which they raised cattle and wheat, as well as being involved in breeding racehorses and trotters. George attended the local state school and went on to work in farming in the Mitiamo district. He was considered an extremely good-natured man. George's brother Arthur, the second eldest in the family, enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force in July 1915. He was killed in action in France a year later. Days after the news of Arthur's death reached the family, George felt compelled to enlist. He was posted to the 60th Battalion and after a short period of training in Australia, left on board the troop ship Shropshire. Private Humbert first went to England and then to France, where he spent a winter rotating in and out of the front line. By spring, he was suffering quite badly with rheumatism and was taken to hospital in Rouen. As a result, he spent a significant period of time in England on light duties with the quartermaster. He was finally well enough to rejoin his battalion in France. Aside from a few weeks on leave, he would not leave the battalion again. In early April 1918, the 60th Battalion were in the front line near the French village of Hamel. At 4:14 a.m. on the 4th of April, the heavy artillery bombardment hit their lines, followed by a major German attack. The men of the 60th were ordered to cease their work immediately and take up arms to defend their position. They spent the next few days in the front line, repelling attacks, shoring up defences and coping with the rain. 2 days later, George Humbert was sitting in his dugout, washing his feet, when a piece of shell came over, pierced his helmet and killed him instantly. He was buried near where he fell and after the war was moved to Crucifix Corner Cemetery in Villers-Bretonneux. He was 33 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, amongst more than 60,000 Australians who died during the First World War. A photograph of his headstone is displayed beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private George Humbert, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere, or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you all for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening.